So the Confederation of Africa waits for their first goal and first win at the greatest show on earth. The likes of Senegal, Tunisia, Morocco, and now Cameroon still without a win and a goal at the tournament. Two past World Cup winners take centre stage today. And a certain number 7 from Portugal will look to create a piece of history that perhaps no man will ever do in the history of this sport. All of this and more. This is Now Streaming Qatar. So the Swiss, who haven't missed a World Cup since 2006, getting the better of Cameroon by 1-0 in the early kickoff on day 5 of the tournament that we have right now. Bril Embolo scoring against the country of his birth in the 48th minute. And now Cameroon will have to play catch-up in this competition. In fact, the last time an African team actually went out of their group to the round of 16 of the World Cup, we'll have to go back to 2014, and that was Algeria and that was Nigeria. But another African team will take centre stage today, and they've been the furthest in the turn of the 21st century in the World Cup, and that is Ghana. But before we get into all of these details, the big matches to come as well, and recapping what has happened so far, let me introduce you to our esteemed panel for this morning, and they're going to hang with us this afternoon as well. These are the guys from This or That Sports TV. To my immediate right, it is Rush, and to my far right, it is Jomar. Jomar and Rush from This and That Sports TV. Gentlemen, good morning. How are you guys doing?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Doing well so far.
Great to hear from you guys. Jomar, let me start with you on this one. Your first World Cup memory. We get all our guests to come on and talk about that.
All right, which camera am I looking in?
Right ahead of you.
Producer?
Yeah.
Right in front
there
of
you
me?
go. Yeah, there you go.
Sir? All right. First World Cup memory. I'd have to say, this is a weird question, but our first memory is the memory probably when Zinedine Zidane got his red card in 06, considering that we are 98 children. there aren't very many memories before that, like 2002. I don't remember, I've only heard about it. 1998, I would have just been born. So that's the first time I can actually remember, like, Zidane getting the red card for headbutting the player, then Italy going on to win on penalties, Buffon at that point stood out to me and started to become like somebody that I looked up to at that point, allowing me to continue to go on and keep goals. So that's probably my first memory.
Okay, I know the passion that you have and the patriotism you have for Jamaica as well. You have memories from in the build-up to these tournaments?
Yeah, so anytime someone asks me about my first World Cup memory, the thing that comes to my mind first is not an actual World Cup memory, but it's memories of World Cup qualifying.
Interesting.
I can remember Jamaica getting a point with Mexico in the Azteca and the very next game. Because like you, Simon, I've been to a lot of football games at National Stadium, supporting the Reggae Boys. But obviously for me growing up, I've been in the bleachers. We never really have grandstand money yet. Until at this point, we get to watch games on the field. It's crazy how far we've come. But I remember going to that game after we drew with Mexico in the Azteca. And we played Panama in the National Stadium right after, and there were fans scaling the walls to get in. That was probably the greatest atmosphere that I've been a part of in the National Stadium. It ended anticlimactically, but I think that would have been my World Cup memories, or my favorite World Cup memories, to be honest.
Very, very nice. Rush, your angle of things?
My first World Cup memory, as Jomar said, we're young guys. So I have a vague memory of the 06 World Cup.
Yeah.
So I remember watching, this is actually my introduction to football, watching Brazil with my late uncle. Brazil is his team. Ronaldinho is his favorite player. So I remember watching Brazil vaguely in that World Cup. Obviously, vaguely remember the headbutt. But I can say the World Cup moment that stands out in my mind, if I was supposed to speak about the World Cup, and the first thing I would say is Germany versus Ghana, 2010. 1-0, Mesut Ozil. That's when I fell in love with football. That's when I found my favorite player. I remember that crazy goal. One right foot, one cross from the right flank. Thomas Muller. Ozil popped it up. Crazy volley to the left corner. Won that game for Germany. Qualified them to the round of 16. So that's when I actually fell in love with football.
Yeah.
And that's my first solid World Cup memory. Obviously, vaguely in 2006.
Yeah. And how much are you enjoying this tournament so far?
It's building up. It's weird seeing that we're at the back end of the year, and we're used to when school is out, and the summer is kicking in, and we're watching our football and stuff. But no, at the back end of the year, it's kind of weird, but it's building up. And I think after the first round, I think is when we'll really see, the people watching their football and all the postings and stuff. Obviously, after today, whatever the result is, we'll see some crazy things on social media, regardless of what happened between Brazil and then what happened in the Portugal game. But I think in the second phase of the competition, it will really amp up for me.
Joe Mar, how are you liking the surprises and the different packages?
There is something that I said before the World Cup, that this. 1 second, my flash is on. There's something that I said before the World Cup, that this is probably the most talented World Cup that I've seen thus far, where every single team can make a solid case for themselves. We see where each team has somebody that we are familiar with, and I think that's something that's new to the World Cup. That's a phenomenon that's only just been introduced. Football is globalizing and it's becoming the world's game as it was previously dubbed to be, and because of that, these upsets are more likely to happen this World Cup, and we've seen it time and time again. And so far, it's been, I think, the best World Cup, barring a few big scores. Costa Rica, who should have been Jamaica. I wish it was Jamaica getting 7. Like, it's been competitive. The football has been very good. It's been exciting, and the results, though surprising, it's been a very good World Cup so far.
Yeah.
I've been enjoying it.
Yeah, indeed. And just a reminder, folks, thank you so much for tuning in as well. Don't forget to hit that like button as well and subscribe as well to 876JA on right here on YouTube and also on Twitter as well, 876streamJA. And for all the latest as well on Twitter, it is Stream876. Of course, these guys, Jomar and Rush from This or That Sports TV, covering quite a bit of content throughout the course of this calendar year as their campaign started, vlogging quite recently. They covered a lot of schoolboy football, reggae boys, reggae girls, you name it. Everything football related and other sports they've certainly touched on. So do check these guys out. They've certainly done some brilliant work all across the island, being able to cover things from Montego Bay to Kingston to literally everywhere. So Jomar, let me start with you as it relates to the first match we saw earlier. The Swiss up and running, no surprises there, or you're expecting the African times to really get on the board by now?
In that particular match, there is no surprise. Switzerland, though not possessing the talent that one would expect from a big team, I had them doing very well in this World Cup. I do think that they've been playing very well. They've been playing very coherently, and they possess Granit Xhaka, who's been one of the best midfielders in England this season, playing for the best team in England, so I am not surprised. In fact, I thought this match I thought Switzerland would have probably gotten more out of it. But I do believe that Cameroon, would have been able to score a goal. They do possess great talent up front, and it's surprising to me that they didn't convert on any chance that they would have gotten. So I had it finishing 2-1, but fair it out.
Yeah, just before we get Rush's perspective on things, just to bring up a graphic on your screen as it relates to Switzerland and just some tidbits so you can get to know the teams a little bit better. 32 teams, so it's an opportunity for you guys to really get to know them a bit better. Switzerland went to the quarterfinals of the Euros back in 2020, and this is a team that has been to every World Cup since 2006, been to a number of quarterfinals, and this is Xherdan Shaqiri's 4th World Cup. He joins Valon Barami. You guys remember him, the former West Ham United and Watford player. 4 World Cups, most by any Swiss player, and their top scorer in World Cup history is Josef Hugi, and of course a number of members of this Swiss team, Granit Xhaka included, was part of that Swiss team that won the Under-17 FIFA World Cup back in 2009, so that continuity is there as well. Rush, for this group in particular, do you have Brazil and Switzerland going through, or you had another combination?
I had Brazil and Switzerland. Obviously, I think this group is probably a good group for Brazil and Switzerland. Switzerland coming into the World Cup. For the last 5 years, they've been really good. We saw them at the Euros and I've been impressed. Even when they are not on form for their specific teams, they always play well together as a team. So I always like Switzerland. I think they will make it to the next round. They will come out of this group.
All right, and certainly you can look forward to the next game in this group later today as the Brazilians take on Serbia. So, of course, a result in that game, we'll certainly see how that group sort of shapes up in the grand scheme of things. But let's get some information about the Cameroon team so you guys can know a little bit more about them as well and everything. Cameroon, we know they nicknamed the Indomitable Lions. Their best run was 1990, where they went to the quarterfinals. That's the only time in World Cup history where they actually got out of their their group in the tournament itself. And of course, Cameroon and Jamaica, lots of similarities. We both had Winfred Schaefer as a coach. Under Cameroon, they took them to the Confederations Cup runners-up title, to beat runners-up in 2003 and 5-time African champions. Jomar, did you have an opportunity to see that Jamaica-Cameroon game? Because a number of players that are part of the Cameroon squad were actually on the field against Jamaica quite recently in that friendly.
Due to work engagements, we were currently out covering, I think it was a Manning Cup quarter-final game. We kept track of the score, but we didn't necessarily get to see the game, and that's probably the first Jamaica game that we haven't seen in years.
Yeah.
And that's actually not a surprising result on the Cameroon side. On Jamaica side, we're definitely impressed. I'm sure most people weren't exactly expecting a draw from that game, but Cameroon, I checked, and of their last 12 games, they've only won 2. Yeah. That is crazy coming into the World Cup. That's atrocious form. Right. And to face up against Switzerland in your first game, Switzerland is no walkover. I didn't expect them to pose too much of a threat to Switzerland because of that form. And that Jamaica game just epitomizes how inconsistent they've been, since qualifying for the World Cup.
And to add to that, Rush, Simon asked a question earlier, like, are the African teams due a point now? Is it time for Africa to get going in the World Cup? Though Cameroon aren't ranked the lowest of all African teams in the World Cup, I do believe that they're the worst African team in the World Cup as it currently stands. Ghana would have added some new players after securing qualification, and I think that makes them a whole different animal. So I was not expecting Cameroon to be the African team to go out and put on a show. As I said before, they have a potent front three or potent attacking players, but their roundedness as a team is not necessarily where it needs to be going into a World Cup. And I think FIFA rankings, actually does them, it's a compliment to them because they're not as good as they're ranked.
Right.
Yeah, well said there. Cameroon, it's been quite a journey for them. They've only won 4 games in World Cup history, and their last win back in 2002 against Saudi Arabia with the likes of Samuel Eto'o back in the squad. He was actually the scorer back then. Before we look ahead to the Uruguay versus South Korea encounter, let's just take some of the comments that you have tuning in. Nicolette Levine says, top of the morning. Good morning. Hope you're doing well. Tanisha Edwards says, checking in. Sound Media TV says, blessings. Joely says, hi Jev, I got you this game on at 8 o'clock. So Jev certainly, getting some stick there based on the predictions from yesterday. I'm sure they'll have some conversations throughout the course of the day. Travis Pessoa says, up, who them CB fanboys, this and that, Chat Sports TV. So I guess, the fans are looking forward to see you guys and the discussion that you guys have for today. So Uruguay against South Korea. Rush, let me start with you on this one. It feels like the end of an era in some aspects and like a last chance. But firstly for you, is Uruguay one of your dark horses?
Yes. I said it to John this morning. I'm actually expecting a really good tournament from Uruguay. A lot of people not expecting it, but I am. They're a really good team, and I feel like they have a good balance of experience and youth. Them and Brazil are 2 teams that I think are well balanced. And a lot of people see it as, the back end of an era, but it's also the beginning of an era. We'll think about the Fede Valverde and their front 2 of their front 3. I'm expecting a really good tournament from Uruguay. My predictions to come out of this group would have been Portugal and Ghana, but I'm somehow thinking about it because Ghana are also inconsistent. These African nations, man. And I just think Uruguay will push Ghana, and I'm going to revise my pick and go Portugal and Uruguay to come out of this group. I'm expecting Uruguay to be the dark horse of the World Cup.
Jomar, same for you?
I'm not expecting Uruguay to be the dark horse of the World Cup. In fact, if there is going to be a dark horse from this zone, I genuinely do believe it will be the South Koreans. They play tournament ball, and we've seen it from 2002, where this team just comes out and just overachieves in all the tournaments that they've been involved in. They've managed to get upset wins. They've managed to push the envelope. They've managed to get good results, backed by the talent of one of the best players in the whole entire World Cup. And his name does not need to be mentioned. I'm sure everybody watching knows who he is. I do believe South Korea, if any team is going to be a dark horse, it's going to be South Korea. I do believe that they possess the currents, they possess the talent and the star power to go ahead and get upsets and to get good results.
Yeah. Before we touch on the South Korea side of things, just want to show the viewers as well some information on the Uruguay team and some comments that have been made. Uruguay will be big, says Rashid Hall, and Trevor says the World Cup starts at 2:00. Unfortunately, it starts on Sunday, my friend. So Uruguay, 2-time World Cup winners. Of course, the closest they have come since then is that 4th place finish back in South Africa 2010, and of course quarterfinals 4 years ago. Of course, France, eventual winners, defeating them there. Their highest score in World Cup history is Oscar Miguez with 8 goals, but Luis Suarez just behind with 7. Diego Forlan with 6. Of course, he's finished playing. Edinson Cavani also at 5. Rush, Cavani and Suarez concerned by the advanced age, or you look at it as experience nonetheless?
As I said earlier,
Yes.
they are balanced. And the thing is, I'm not expecting Cavani to start too many games. In fact, I'm not expecting him to start any games. Luis Suarez is obviously pushing the coach to make a decision in terms of starting him. He's getting the start in this game. Still a good player. I think Cavani will offer them some energy off the bench. Cavani is good for a late goal. That's one thing we know over his career. Is good for a late goal. So I think that will offer them an added advantage in this group. So I don't think their aging offense will be anything to worry about in this competition.
Same for you, Jomar?
No, I tend to disagree. And it's weird because me and Rush agrees on so many things. I'd say we agree on like 90% of things, but 10% of things that we do disagree on, we disagree on them. That's just the dynamic that we have. I believe that the age in front three is going to pose a problem to them. I think it's a front three that lacks pace. Besides Darwin, they lack pace and they lack energy, and then they're all at this point in their life not being as mobile as they once were. I don't think they have the wide creativity to get them the balls in, the squares in, that will make Cavani an extreme threat, because I believe that that's where he can come on and impact the game. He can hold up play or he can get a late header, as Rush said. He's good for a late goal. But then I question the ability of Uruguay to create these chances for him in the latter part of the game, especially from the wide areas that you would need to get the ball into Edinson Cavani. So I do believe the age might be a hindering factor for them, especially in the front three.
Simon, you know what I think? When look at Uruguay's midfield, man, don't sleep on it. Bentancur and Freddy Valverde, they will create the chances. And the way that Uruguay play, they press, yes, but they also try to possess the ball. When you look at their stats, they have most of the ball most of the time. Right. So I'm expecting them to have the ball. I'm expecting Valverde on top of his foot and top form to create some chances. And I think, obviously I'm not a big fan of Darwin, but he scores goals. He'll get his goals, and we know what the beast that Luis Suarez is. So I think they'll create enough chances to obviously win this game, but be good in the competition. But as Joe said, I understand the concern for the age. I just don't think it will affect them too much.
Yeah, and I'm sure you guys heard as well from Rush as well, Cavani and sort of the impact he will have. He's not starting today, as Rush said, he didn't expect him to start. So the front three is Luis Suarez, Darwin Núñez and Facundo Pellistri. You guys remember, Manchester United fans? Yeah, Pellistri starts today, will certainly give them that work rate, and certainly as a rapid player will certainly give them that little bit of bite as well. Perhaps do the tracking back that perhaps a Suarez might not be able to do, or had the energy like he did in previous times. But we have some information on South Korea's side of things, and we're going to bring up that information for you quite shortly to get to know a little bit more of them better. A team that is industrious, and as you can see, their best run 4th back in 2002. The only other time that they came out of their group was South Africa 2010, where they went to the round of 16. Asian Cup runners-up back in 2015. And certainly a team that you can't sleep on at all. Despite early elimination in the last World Cup, they did defeat Germany by 2-0. And, Jomar was speaking about it, and even Rush as well, the South Korean team, not a team to sleep on at all. Jomar, let me start with you on this one. Many people underestimate this team, but they've shown time and time again that you can't afford and you can't take them lightly at all.
That's the South
Korean team, right?
Yeah, and you made mention to the World Cup beginning because a certain number 7 would be playing today. And for a second I was like, yeah, everybody knows that Son is going to play today. But then it occurred to me that that's the number 7 that you were talking about on the screen right now. I don't think he'll be the best number 7 on the day. And I genuinely do believe that he will be the second best number 7 on the day because of the number 7 that this South Korea team possesses. He's a player that is so creative, he's so athletic, he's so technically gifted, and he's so smart with how he plays the game. You know, playing for a certain team that I don't want to say out my mouth right now, domestically, you know, we wish them all the bad things in life. As a team.
Portugal, you're talking?
No, Tottenham. Yeah. Playing for. I was talking about the real number 7, Simon, not Cristiano Ronaldo, who is going to be the second best number 7 on the day.
Crazy.
Talking about Son.
Right.
So
the best number 7 of the day.
Yeah, the best number 7. So playing for a team back in England, you know, a team that we wish all the bad things for. He's still a good player, and it's so weird. I'm anti-Tottenham 100%, but Son and Harry Kane are like 2 of my favorite players. And because South Korea possesses Son, in addition to other pieces that work very well with him and that we've seen work well with him throughout qualifying and throughout past competitions, and I do believe that South Korea will have enough to get it across the line.
Is that something you agree with, or the 10%?
No, man, that's in the 90. I definitely agree with South Korea. And as he mentioned earlier, South Korea is a tournament team.
Yeah.
That's why they do that well. And the thing is, and we'll mention this when I speak about Brazil later, it's one of the points that I have. South Korea, yes, they have a star man. Yes, they have one of the best players in the world, but their dependency on me, they hide it very well. You know, it's not where he is dribbling with the ball all the time. They're forcing the ball to him, but when he gets it, he makes it count. And sometimes we see him start up top, sometimes we see him start on the left. Today it looks like on the left. And I like the way they use him. Not to depend on him too much like Brazil did in 2008 with Neymar.
Yeah.
You know, I always liken it to that where South Korea, they have nobody on the talent level of a Son.
Right.
But the way they use him, I'm impressed. And I think they'll do well in this group. They'll definitely push the other 3 teams.
So, Hyunmin Son, he's just 1 goal away from being South Korea's highest goal scorer ever in the history of the World Cup. Park Ji-sung also with 3 goals, and An Jung-hwang as well, also with 3 goals as well. So 1 goal away for him for creating history. Another player to look out for the South Koreans is Lee Kang-in, the 21-year-old from Mallorca, who was actually the Golden Ball winner at the last Under-20 World Cup. That's when the South Korean team finished 3rd. Well, actually, runners-up back in 2019 as well. So definitely a team that you can't sleep on at all. Gentlemen, let's now look forward to the 3rd match of the day, the Portuguese against Ghana. In many sense, you know, I repeat, because these teams met each other back in 2014 in the group stage as well. Both teams also were eliminated at that early stage as well. Rush, I'm going to start with you on this one. Firstly, the interview. Your thoughts about it, how everything sort of transpired, because so much has happened in the last 10 days. Will that have any impact on him, or the ego, the personality of him? It's just about game day and business now.
Simon, before I go there, I have to address my panelists here.
Yeah.
I can't be here and allow the Cristiano Ronaldo slander. I just can't.
Yeah.
That's my goat. Cristiano Ronaldo will definitely be the best number 7 on the day. But let's go to your question. I'm not even going to engage in a conversation right there. The interview rubbed me the wrong way. I don't like it. Yes, I like directness, I like straightforwardness, but I don't think the timing was right. I don't think the platform was right. Definitely not even going to call him. But
shout out to Piers every time.
Yeah, I don't think the timing and the platform was the greatest. You know, it's weird going into a World Cup where this is his last chance, and this is the time when he needs to, you know, pull up his socks and put away with the domestic form and put on his big boy boots and score some goals, because he's been inconsistent for Portugal recently. You know, and so it's not the timing, it's so off. It's weird to me. Why? Like, what kind of promotional tactic is this?
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of weird, and I think he'll be professional. That's one thing we know about Cristiano Ronaldo. He's a goal scorer. He'll be professional. His style of play has changed over the years, so they are obviously not as dependent on him again. He'll just be responsible for scoring those goals, and that I know that he can do that. You know, he top scored Manchester United last year, and I think coming into the World Cup, obviously not on great form, but he's a goal scorer. He's one of the greatest players to ever, you know, put on football cleats, and I'm expecting him to do just that. If they can get 70% of the Cristiano that they know, Portugal will be fine. You know, as a team, they're inconsistent. They've done some interviews, and the coach has mentioned that yes, we've been inconsistent, but this is the tournament that you'll see the best of us. That's exactly what he said. You know, and I think Portugal will turn up in this tournament. I have them top in the group. Interview, bad, but they'll be fine.
Okay.
Though, you know, having the tendency or though sometimes perceived as a quote-unquote diva in football, one thing that I admire about Cristiano Ronaldo is his ethic, his work ethic, and his professionalism, and his ability to make the main thing be the main thing at all times. I think that's what Cristiano Ronaldo is good for. And I do think that Cristiano Ronaldo will come to this World Cup, and I do think he'll be the only player to score in 5 World Cups. I genuinely do believe that a World Cup will not be completed and Cristiano Ronaldo doesn't score more than 1 or 2 goals. That being said, I still don't believe that he's anywhere near the Cristiano Ronaldo that he was. And if Portugal are going to have a good showing, Cristiano Ronaldo cannot be their first, second, or third best player. If Portugal are going to have a good World Cup, I think it's heavily predicated on João Cancelo. You know, Bruno Fernandes has to start playing good football for his country, and alongside with Bernardo. I think that's where, because we saw in the Euros, we saw where, you know, Bruno Fernandes and Bernardo Silva, that's really what got them over the line. You know, Cristiano Ronaldo wasn't present for some parts of it. For the most important part, he wasn't there, and we saw where Portugal's super talented midfield got them across the line. Now, I'm of the firm belief that Portugal is, if not one of, the best and most talented teams, player for player, in this whole entire World Cup. That's a claim that I've been making to everyone who listened, and people look at me sideways as if, what is this man talking about? But when you look at the players that they possess, when you use the players' FIFA ratings, which is something that I sometimes do, like, you know, what is this player rated in FIFA, and how is he compared to other players? And you see the likes of Ruben Dias, one of the best defenders in the whole entire world. You know, as I previously mentioned, Bruno Fernandes and Bernardo Silva, 2 players at the peak of their powers, playing at, well, one of them is playing at a good team, the other one is playing at
Man City, yeah.
So as I said, Silva is playing at a good team, and Bruno Fernandes plays at a team.
Yeah.
You know, but we can't say Bruno Fernandes is good in spite of the team that he plays for. In addition to Cristiano Ronaldo, who, as I said, born goal scorer and one of the greatest players of all time. And he will be able to come up with a good game. You know, Mendes, you know, another young left back who I think is going to be one of the best wing defenders in the whole entire world. So I do believe that Portugal is gifted with talent. You know, if they get it together and if they get it right, they should be spoken about as one of the favorites for this World Cup. And I do believe Ronaldo will keep professional and score some goals.
Yeah, I mean, you guys heard what Jomar said in terms of the history that could be created today. No man in history has ever scored at 5 World Cups. He scored against Iran 2006, North Korea 2010, Ghana 2014, a hat-trick against Spain 2018, of course, against Morocco. So to play at 5 World Cups, he had to score at 5 World Cups. Something for us to think about as well. And he could do today 10 hat-tricks for Portugal, 117 international goals. Just speaks the volume of what he has done so far within his career. And Rush, I mean, you heard what Jomar said in terms of the depth. We haven't even called persons like Neves or Pepe in terms of this. Patricio, who was at Wolves quite recently as well. It's like in every position, there's 2 or 3, well, 2 deep for each position that you can call upon.
Exactly, and I don't think this team, as Jomar said, I think is the most talented. Obviously, some competition is there, the Brazilian team, and even the Argentine team. I think that's a really good team. The Belgian team, you know, so those are some teams up there, but I think this Portuguese team, talent is not their deficit. You know, it's not that's not letting them down. What's letting them down is just the way they play. They're too inconsistent. You know, we'll say one game, or even in one game, we see them having free-flowing football and they're scoring goals for fun. And then in that same game or the next game, we see they're just defending, they're having leaky defense and Pepe making mistakes like it's 2013 or something, you know, and I think that is what is letting them down. You know, their inconsistencies, definitely not their talent.
Indeed. Before we look at some facts on Ghana, let's take some of the comments as well. Dexter's Lab, big up, hope you're doing well. Says, disrespect to the great baller. Christie will show his greatness today. However, it's a team sport. I think Portugal as a team will do very well. They will understand that Ghana is no walkover. Nicolette Levine says, agreed. Kevin Cooper says, one thing with CR7, he thrives under pressure. Says, blessings everyone. Dexter continue. Christie always put Portugal on his back when they need him. Man stands up when he's in tournament. That is in that jersey, yep. And Nicola continues, Portugal has a great team on paper. Hopefully they'll show that greatness today. Agreed, they make it hard on themselves, says Dex that time. But that has always been the nature of Portugal. Let's have some information on Ghana before we look ahead to the other game on the game. That's the Brazil against Serbia encounter. This is some information on Ghana. Of course, their best run back in 2010 where they went to the quarterfinals. We remember Asamoah Gyan and company, their debut back in 2006. They haven't been to the World Cup since 2014 though. They missed out on 2018. This is their fourth World Cup appearance. Rush, let me start with you on the Ghanaian team. We've seen the IUs in the Premier League as well. Do they stand a chance, in your opinion, of progressing?
I like Ghana coming into the competition, but what they've done over the last year, I don't like it. I feel like players should be rewarded for their grind. And players that you work with and that gotten you to this point, I think you should reward them. I don't think you should just, pick players just because you're going to the tournament and Ghana, they're not going to win the competition regardless. I don't think so. Right. And what they've done, preparing for this competition, I think it will hurt them. I think chopping and changing and even the coach, he likes to tinker. You look at their starting lineup, you can't tell the way they will start. And even coming into the competition, they almost got a late addition of Eddie and Ketty. And I think just those smart things, coming into a tournament, you need a team to be together. You need a team that knows each other. You need a team that knows how each other plays and know where the players will be, along with the system. But I think that will hurt them, and chopping and changing is not a good recipe for success. Definitely not in a tournament, a short tournament at that.
Well said. Jomar?
A very talented team, I piggyback off what Rush says. We have a very talented team in Ghana. They're a team that possesses the players, as he mentioned, to do well in the World Cup. However, coherence is something that's a big deal, especially in tournament play. Especially when you only have one mistake in tournament play. You only have one bad game in you, and it has to come in the first round. And I think because of the lack of preparation or the lack of solidity within this Ghanaian team, I think they'll need more than one bad game in order to get it right. Genuinely do believe that. The worst ranked team, in the World Cup from Africa. I don't think the rankings are indicative of their talent, but there's a reason why they're ranked how they're ranked. And it's because they only recently acquired this talent. And it's not club football where you just say, all right, let me just buy somebody in January and add them to the team and then have them help me make a late Premier League rush or Premier League push. That's not how it works. So as I said, I don't think Ghana will get it together in time to get it together.
All right, we're going to have a video for you quite shortly in terms of a tactical preview in terms of the Brazilian approach, looking at, how they could line up. And then what we're going to do after the video is played is get reactions from the panel in terms of weaknesses, strengths, in terms of how they'll set up. It is understood that they could be going with that 4-2-3-1 for today with Casemiro and Fred. It was something that they worked at in training. Just ahead of them, the front four, you could say, of Neymar, Lucas Paqueta, Rafinha and Richarlison. So we'll get some reactions on that. But first, here's a tactical preview of the Brazilian team, and of course we'll get the reactions of Jomar and Rush.
Now, Brazil, this will be their best chance to win the World Cup since 2002. Absolutely their best chance. Stacked in quality, stacked in depth. Amazing, amazing talents. Every area of the pitch, there's depth. And that is why even coming up with the 26-member squad gave sleepless nights to Coach Tite. It really, really was difficult for him. In net, we know Alisson Becker is a leader. Edison and Alisson certainly battled it out. I expect Alisson to be that number one and certainly continue in that vein. Danilo at right back, he gets the edge over Dani Alves. And at left back, Alexandro. Now, central defense is an interesting one. Marquinhos has been that leader in the back line, the PSG man. And it's a compelling case because Marquinhos and Eder Militao didn't concede a goal together throughout the course of World Cup qualifying. That tandem was so strong. But the Brazilian coaching staff are very methodical in the way that they prepare teams. And they are just simply impressed, even at 38, what Thiago Silva has been able to do and accomplish. So I expect him to get the nod alongside Marquinhos in this match in particular. Thiago Silva, the number of runs that he does in training, his work rate, his work ethic, how he's able to keep up, has significantly impressed the coaching staff. And that is why he gets the nod. Any injury concerns, Eder Militao will come into the mix of things. Brazil will go with that midfield too. And in front of them, Casemiro, who recently signed for Manchester United, and Fred. Of course, two players that are slowly but surely also building up some synergy together at club level. In front of them, a three of Rafinha, Paqueta, Neymar, and up front, Richarlison. I might say, but why Richarlison, especially bearing in mind his club form has not necessarily been the best? Well, the reality of the situation is that Richarlison for country is a completely different player. 7 goals in 6 games in 2022. 18 goals for Brazil. And whenever Richarlison scores, Brazil always wins. Richarlison is so critical to Brazil and the way they play. But if you were to ask me who is the most important player to the Brazilian outfit in terms of how they play, it would have to be Lucas Paqueta. Because his movement, of course, as we know, inverted. So right-footed player on the left, of course, a left-footed player on the right in terms of what Rafinha has in store. Paqueta, what he does so well is his inverted movement. By coming centrally, what happens so brilliantly is that he allows Neymar to sometimes drift wide or switch positions. And this switch often mesmerizes the opposition. And as a result of that, Neymar is able to get time and space, whether to go for glory or pass off to Richarlison, who eventually finds the target. That's why Paqueta is so crucial, so important to this team. Rafinha, pace, strength, can whip crosses in, and Richarlison is there to ensure that things are taken care of quite smoothly. It's hard to know and to pick a deficiency of this Brazilian team. If you had to pick any, then the last time that Brazil played against a European opposition was back in 2019 against the Czech Republic. As we know, due to COVID, not many friendlies were played. So outside of South American World Cup qualifying and CONMEBOL, not many friendlies were played. Since losing that Copa America final in 2021 to Argentina, Brazil have gone on a 15-game unbeaten run. 15 games. It just seems everything has fallen into place. So this World Cup will provide a stern test to the Brazilians. How will they react being a goal down? How will they react being under pressure? Will they crumble? That is still to be seen in this World Cup. That is still to be seen. How will they manage? That will be the biggest concern.
Right, so I know lots of people might be saying, well, where's the likes of Vinicius Jr., where's Rodrigo, where's Pedro that has done so well at Flamengo? This is what Tite likes and what he has trained with, since they arrived in Qatar. I just wanted to get the reaction firstly of Rush. Many people say, why not for Fabinho? Are you on that same vein as well?
I'm definitely on that part. What game of football can Fred start in a team over Fabinho and Bruno Guimaraes in that midfield? In what game? Especially when you have Casemiro, who's a solid rock, who you know what you're going to get from Casemiro. You could play Guimaraes and that would give you a better option. I think this coach is biased to Fred. Will probably hurt Brazil. I really think, I think it will probably hurt them. Fabinho and Guimaraes will definitely give them more in a midfield. The team though, not having Vinicius, kind of weird. But I love the options that Brazil has, in terms of the way they can set up.
Yeah.
My take on this whole matter is Rush spoke about Fred. Obviously, we don't rate Fred very highly, but I think Brazil's biggest deficit, and I think their weakness, and I think where they will lose the World Cup, is at their wide defender positions, their wing backs. I think that is the only Achilles heel on a team that seems so assured in almost every single position. Brazil has 2 of the top 5 possible goalkeepers in the whole entire world. They have Marquinhos, who I rate as the best central defender right now, in addition to Thiago Silva, who is still so strong, still so solid. Casemiro, he's always highly rated, he's always reliable, he always works hard, he always intercepts, he always makes the right decision. Neymar, one of the most creative players this season thus far. Neymar has been having a season that has gone underrated because of the history of Neymar, because of the perception of Neymar. People might not be giving him his flowers, but he's been absolutely amazing all season. Where they're like Rafinha, so on and so, has gone to Barca and has done a shift. Paqueta, a good player, so on and so forth. I think their only Achilles heel on a team that is so assured is their wing back positions, and I think that's where
Yeah.
they might find some issues. Because you think about their wing positions, like on the bench, they have only the greatest winger in England, Gabriel Martinelli. And I'm just kidding. But we see their depth. You know, we see where they can make substitutions and not lose a beat. You know, but when you have like the likes of Tejas and Sandro and that's not good enough. And maybe we're just saying that because it's who they're compared to, because you have Tejas and you're comparing Tejas to Marquinhos, and you're like, but I would love Tejas to be my starting left back at Jamaica. Don't get me wrong, you know, that would be a solid wing back for me to have. However, I just don't think, I'm not saying that this is a weakness that is absolutely detrimental to them, but I think if a team is going to pick Brazil apart, if we're going to identify an Achilles heel for this team that might prevent them from winning the World Cup, I think it's at their wing back positions where they're weakest. That's something I wanted to allude to.
All right, let's look at some information on Serbia so that persons can get to know them a little bit better. And I know Jomar will enjoy this sort of conversation because Alexander Mitrovic, who has done so well, you know, not only for international but club-wise as well, has benefited from service from Bobby Reid, or as some people like to say, Dexter Daps. Yeah. So they're nicknamed the Eagles. You know, they face Brazil and Switzerland just like in the last World Cup as well. 50 goals in 76 appearances. Certainly that has done some well. And of course they had that shock win over the Germans back in 2010. Dusan Tadic over at Ajax as well. Mitrovic is like the man on form in England, as we've seen of late.
At me?
Yeah, like Mitrovic.
Oh yeah. Rush knows that Mitrovic is somebody that
in the FPL.
I rate highly. Like, you know, I've been following him because of the Bobby Reeds of the world. I've been following him from the championship, and it's like every single time, Fulham is playing.
Yeah.
If I catch the game, I'm going to see Mitrovic score. If I don't catch the game, I'm going to get a notification that Mitrovic has scored. And that's not even an exaggeration. Like, how does one score so many goals in a single competition? That's one more FIFA reference. That's things that we do in FIFA, in the video game, and Mitrovic managed to bring what is video game-esque to life. And he has brought his form from the championship, who is by far an inferior league to the Premier League. And some might say he will not be able to replicate. Obviously, he won't be scoring 40 goals in the Premier League, but he's managed to come over and still keep the same form, still score goals in big games against big teams. You know, so I'm excited to see what Mitrovic does today, and I will go out on a limb to say that Alexander will score today.
Oh, I like Mitrovic. Mitrovic is a really, really good player. Obviously, Jomar is more bullish on Mitrovic than I am. But where I think Serbia will have a good tournament is their midfield. You know, that Milinkovic, Savic, and Tadic combination. Yeah. You know, that's a good combination for a good tournament. You know, and they've played well together. And them joining with the attack is also, you know, we've seen it reap some relative success. So I'm expecting Mitrovic to have a good competition. Joma would probably say he's going to get the golden boot. I'm not so sure on that one. But I'm expecting a good tournament from Serbia.
Yeah.
All right, guys, just going to read some of the comments that we had. Rashid Hall today has some great matchups. Serbia and Uruguay are big dark horses. Amazing goal, says Alves can't start in my team. Interesting. Jamie Ricky says Sandro is a class wing back. And Nicola says Brazil free, different from Manu. Interesting. So, and just before we wrap up the show for today, we really appreciate Jomar and Rush. You'll see them in the afternoon after the games that we have today. Just some breaking news that our producers have provided for us. A tech giant Apple have inquired and are interested in buying Manchester United for £5.8 billion. And if Apple were to complete a deal, it would make Manchester United the richest club in the world. We hope to get more information on that and keep you all abreast of that information. So thank you very much, Jeff and Jamal, for that information. Jomar and Rush, thank you very much for tuning in. Really appreciate you guys dropping by, and they'll join us back in the afternoon. Let's see what happens.
Maybe if Apple buy Man U, them can actually become a good team.
Or we might see another stock trend in the opposite direction, and Apple start going down.
All right, guys. Just before I go, Uruguay, South Korea, pick a side or a scoreline.
South Korea is going to win that match 1-0.
I have Uruguay winning this match 2-1.
All right, and the next one today, Portugal, Ghana.
Have Portugal beating Ghana 2-0.
2-0, okay.
Portugal is going to take that game.
Yeah, and Serbia over Brazil. Yeah.
You know, I'm expecting Brazil to have a great World Cup. I'm expecting Brazil to go out in this game and make a statement.
Yeah.
So 4-0 Brazil.
All right.
4-0 Brazil. You know, I'm thinking Brazil will win the game. You know, I think Serbia will score. I think it'll be 2-1.
All right, I'm going to agree with you there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And we'll be back at 4 o'clock for our post-game show Until then, bye-bye for now.
Ladies and gentlemen,